Hello folks, I'm Em. Welcome to my channel where we're taking a break from cooking from every single one of our 114 cookbooks to make use of leftovers and whatever else we can find in cans, in bottles, in jars throughout this period of quarantine. Alright, so I know it's been a little while since I did my last video. Again, mind you, all this was shot last week, which means if you're concerned about my well-being for eating chicken that's probably like 2 weeks old, don't worry. I've just gotten around to editing and recording these talky bits right now. When we left off, we had just roasted one chicken and we had made 4 things with it up until the point of the last video. And up to this point, this is our 5th and last recipe, which is a sandwich. Sliced chicken is very good for sandwiches, as I'm sure you all know. So what I did was I took chicken breast and then I sliced it and then I turned it into sandwiches. So for this sandwich, you will need to be really careful because it has to be fried, which means things will be falling out if you overfill it. So for once, less is actually more. And I really hope you'll listen to this, or you're gonna end up with one really big, not great, absolutely no good mess in your kitchen. So listen to me. If there's any one thing that you should listen to, this is it. Less is more where this recipe is concerned. So for this sandwich, you're going to start off with the chicken breast, which, if you remember correctly, you're going to slice really thinly because, as I've mentioned earlier, if you make it too thick, your sandwich is going to fall apart. And Sephora ain't gonna save you then, hun. So listen to me and slice it as thinly as possible. The same is going to apply to your pickles. Now, obviously, you don't have to use any pickles if you don't like it, but I find that the acidity sort of helps to add depth of flavor and a little bit of extra crunch when you really need it. I'm doing things a little bit out of order here, which is why I'm whisking up an egg first, salting and adding pepper, and then beating it up. This is what you're going to use to help bind the coatings to your sandwich later. So I guess it doesn't really matter when you make it, as long as it's ready when you need. Next up, you can assemble the actual sandwich. I didn't bother with anything besides cheese. You can add a bit of mayonnaise if you'd like, but I find that it doesn't really need it. The cheese on its own is rich enough. So layer on your chicken atop the cheese. I think this is actually a Dutch cheese. You can use whatever cheese you like. Cheddar would be really good here too. So you're going to press that down, squidge it down. I'm using the bread ends here because these were the last 2 bits that I had and I really just wanted to use it all. So using the flat edge of your knife, you're going to press down on the edges. This is not going to be a perfect seal, but it's a pretty good trick if you want to at least help to flatten the edges of your sandwich a bit. Next up, you're going to take your cornflakes. These are regular cornflakes, not too much sugar. You could use, as I mentioned earlier, potato chips or some tortilla chips are also great. You're just going to finely pound them. If you don't want to use a mortar and pestle, you could also put these plates in a bag and bash it up with a rolling pin. So now we're ready to assemble. And out of view here is actually a plate of all-purpose flour. So what you're going to do is you're going to coat your sandwich in the egg mixture. It's a bit messy, but it's worth it, I tell you. So egg mixture first, and then you're going to coat it in flour. And then you're going to coat it in the egg again. This should be good to use up all the eggs. And then you're gonna coat it in the mashed up cornflakes. And you're going to cook it over medium heat until the cornflakes are golden, or even more golden than they were before. And the cheese has melted. It doesn't take too long. You're gonna take care to not burn it because those black bits are not great, y'all. Alright, I think about 1 or 2 minutes aside is good enough. And then you can just cut it in half. And there you have it, an easy, delicious sandwich. So that sandwich is definitely something that is good when you're in need of something that's slightly unhealthy, but not as unhealthy as, say, fried chicken. You can replace the cornflakes with something else that you might have at home, some other snack, like potato chips probably would make a good coating if you pound it up nicely enough. And tortilla chips are also a good idea. Breadcrumbs are also great, but I didn't see a point in making breadcrumbs. Who used to coat bread? It seemed a bit excessive. So I went with cornflakes. I often have cornflakes on their own for dinners, so I generally tend to have them around, and they're very useful in cooking. So in Malaysia, we're progressing into our 3rd week of semi-lockdown, and I'm going a little bit stir-crazy. I consider myself an introvert, but I think it's the option of going out that I like best. And the world generally is not in a good place right now, so I hope you're all taking care of yourselves. Staying indoors, hydrating, eating lots and lots of greens, having lots of fruit, and drinking all the alcohol your constitution would allow. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope you're being good to one another. Fingers crossed, we'll get through this and we'll come out of it better than ever. For my next video though, I'm not too sure. I want to do something with leftovers. I might actually look into doing another book because I do have a request for Mexican food, but I want to make sure I do it justice, and groceries are kind of limited in this time, and I don't want to just cook something for the sake of cooking it. So I'm gonna like dig through my books and find something that's easy to cook in this time, but also not a complete cop-out. This is a challenge and I intend to stick with it. Until then, subscribe, share, like this video, tell your friends about the crazy person who's trying to cook her way through a cookbook. Until next time, bye bye.